So, hello everyone. I'm very happy to be here. It's the first time for me, and I'm happy to be able to share this Road to QA story. First, let's get me out of the way because I will I will frankly talk a lot about myself uh, in the forthcoming slides. My name is Benjamin Bischoff, so you pronounced my name quite well. Thank you. I'm a test automation engineer at Trivago in Germany. I have about 25 years of development experience, first 15 or so as a developer, and then I transitioned more and more into the world of software development in test. So I will tell you a little bit about how that happened. This is not about bragging. That's very important. I want to mention that up front. It's not a talk about how awesome I am. It's just a talk to share my story because I'm sure every one of you listening in has a similar story to share as well. So I just wanted to give you my view. So for me, my career has always been around that question. Do I want to keep doing what I'm doing? And I think everyone, especially working in IT and especially working in IT now in the age of AI, is asking this every day. I know I am. But the first time that happened to me, this question is way back. So let's go way back, not to my birth, but a little bit later. When I went to school, I was about 11 years old or so, and my best friend had a Commodore 64. So I'm sure many of you will remember this awesome machine that you connected to a TV and you could play games on it. But what fascinated me and what fascinated us about this was BASIC, and it was built in. And this BASIC code that you see here was actually printed in a magazine that was quite common at that time. Um, to give you a sense of scale, I'm 47 years old, so you roughly know what year I'm talking about. But this was incredible. You could just open a computer magazine, type up this code you saw here, and if you didn't make any mistakes, you had something like a bouncing ball on screen or something similar. So this is where my fascination with computers and programming actually started. And that deepened further when my parents bought a PC. That was our first one we got. It was already old when we got it. Uh, it was quite similar looking to this one, an Intel 8286 processor in it. It had a Hercules graphics card, so it was black and white or black and green, I think. And it had 20 megabytes of hard drive space. And during my basic experiments that I did, I pretty much occupied all the hard disk space we had. And I started getting fascinated with a lot of the basic dialects, QBasic, QuickBasic, later Visual Basic for DOS. Yeah, that was actually a thing, and Visual Basic for Windows. And a lot of my friends did the same too. So instead of swapping uh, copies of games in school, we swapped programs that we wrote to check out. And in 1995, 96, that deepened further because I was an exchange student in Michigan, USA, for uh, a year, a whole school year. And the photo you see there is me on the right side and my host brother, Josh, from this family on the left side. He was also into programming. And I didn't know that at first, but this was some common ground we shared. And the person on the other picture is Mrs. Helen Gallup. She unfortunately passed away some years ago. She was my programming teacher at school. That was the first time I ever experienced programming as a school subject. So pretty much then my career choice was set. I wanted to do something with software development and computers. And later, when I came back to Germany, I started playing with PHP because I heard this is a cool thing to do for web. I never worked with any web stuff before because the internet was also very new at that time. And at the same time, I tried out Flash with a friend of mine who was, or still is, a graphics artist and 3D animator. And we approached this tool from two different angles, me from the programming side, he from the graphics side, and together we did some experiments and side projects just for fun. So in 1999, I started vocational training in Germany. That means I'm pretty sure that exists or something similar exists in other countries. You have half the time education in school and half the time you work in a real company. And this was the company I worked in. It was called Amidis in Germany. It was a very small company. And I did some web development, some crystal reporting. Another thing that some of you might remember, it is actually still around. That was and is a reporting tool for data. And the screenshot on the right, I was very amazed because this is exactly how this tool looks today. It looks like it's from the 90s or early 2000s, but this is still how it looks today. Um, but in this company, I had my first experience working for real customers and how to deal with actual customer requests, because that was something I never did before. Unfortunately, just 2 years later, this company went bankrupt. So the vocational training is usually a 2.5 to 3 year process. It went bankrupt roughly 2 years into this process. But anyway, I was able to finish my vocational training in another company, but that was quite a shock very early in the career. And then I also noticed that side projects can have real benefits because, frankly, the vocational training I received in Germany, that was the second time a group of students actually did that in the IT field. Before that, it didn't exist. So the whole education part was not that refined, I would say. So all the experience I made during that time came actually from the side projects and not from the official education. And this is what landed me a job in another company. Um, this is a website of the of the company's website, or a screenshot of the website as it was then. And funnily enough, this company was actually the company where my friend worked that had the C64. So the circle was closing. So there I did web and Flash development. You see that my side projects actually paid off, but I learned way more about teamwork and organization of work and also documentation, because this was also a small company, but working for a lot of clients at the same time. So all of this was very, very important. Again, in 2003, this company went bankrupt. So in those few years, I experienced two bankruptcies. And at that point, I thought, okay, was it me who caused that? I wasn't sure. Um, but this is exactly when I asked this question, do I want to keep doing what I'm doing the first time for real? And the answer was no. Then I decided to be a freelancer. So I thought the next bankruptcy should be my own personal one if if it comes, and not one of the companies I work in. So I decided to try that. And I actually did that for 6.5 years roughly as a self-employed web and Flash developer. And the experience I gained from the former job working with customers, that really helped me doing that, because that was actually the hardest part to do on my own. Working with customers, communication, I wasn't very good in communication at that time. And organizing myself was also really challenging. This is actually a newspaper clipping about me at that time. You see, I look a little younger, where I started to form this freelance company. And with my friend, whom I tried out Flash with, we actually created a lot of games together. This was one of the last ones we did during that time. It was called Sumo X 3. We did two other versions before. Again, I'm not showing you this to brag, but just show you how the different experiences actually made sense in his career. And we were able to sell this game to one of the big communication providers in Germany. So that was really, really nice. And because of this gaming experience, I actually became a freelancer in a team at Ubisoft. They were searching for a UI developer for a Flash game. And I thought, that is it. That is my chance. I finally get to make a real game in a bigger team. In this case, the bigger team meant around 15 people. So we had back-end developers, front-end developers, we had game designers, graphics artists, and also QA. We had 2 people for QA, and we were all working in the same room. And it was very, very straightforward to coordinate front end and back end. There was nothing like design documents or API flows defined or something like that. If somebody of us just needed more data from an API, we just talked to the backend people, and if they needed to us to show some new data, they would talk directly to the front end people. But we saw QA as a necessary evil. And I'm not proud of that, but we actually had a case where we said, okay, we know we have a bug in the game, but let's ship it and not tell QA, because if they don't find it, we don't have a bug. Yeah, that changed fundamentally for me.
We're very much happy to hear that, Benjamin.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is the fundamental thing that changed for me, how I view QA. This was the game we're working on. It was called The Settlers My City, a spin-off of the Settlers games for Facebook. But because Ubisoft was very late in the game, in 2012, it got cancelled. So it was the third cancellation in my career. It was not a bankruptcy, but it still hurt a lot, because of the project that we all had been working on for 1.5 years just shut down completely. I also have to tell you that during this time at Ubisoft, I was not a freelancer anymore, because I couldn't have taken this role as a front-end lead as a freelancer. So at that time, I was a full-time employee of them. But again, this cancellation gave me another chance, because I was transferred to a tools and services game within the company. and we were doing web-based tools for game teams all over the world. And it was about giving them tools for game moderation, for running in-game campaigns, for marketing, for player support. This is actually a screenshot of the player support tool we did there. And it was all serious Java development, Java enterprise development. And this was the first time I came in contact with Java. And there I learned, again, very valuable things, like how to document properly, how to work with multiple teams that were spread across the world, also big QA teams, mainly in India and Romania. And this is key, the first usage of software testing. And the time that I first heard about different testing terms and what they might mean, and I also came in touch with Selenium. So that was more than 10 years ago that I worked with Selenium, because we needed front-end based tests, UI-based tests, because those tools could have a very serious impact on the in-game economy. So that means that if those tools were flawed, they could mess up a game completely and mess up the revenue stream from those games. So it was very, very crucial to test them from all angles. And this was so fascinating to see a browser open up by itself, and elements being clicked and all of that. And that was the key moment for me in my career, because I had some serious doubts at that point. I had a very nice job creating those tools that created real value, was really nice, but there was no testing career path in the company, really. And I really wanted to learn more about this testing aspect. So again, this question came to me at that time: do I want to keep doing what I'm doing? And I said no. And then I saw a job offer for a test automation engineer. And at that time, I wasn't sure if I should try it or not, because I didn't have that much testing experience. I had a lot of development experience, but testing, I had to learn a lot. So I consulted the internet. Should I do it or not? And I found very different opinions, but most of them very bad. My favorite one that I read is the one at the bottom that said, "Sorry, but switching to QA from dev is career suicide." Or, "Sadly, QA becomes a dumping ground for bad engineers." So a lot of bad opinions and strange opinions, negative. So I said, whatever. And I applied for the job. Frankly, there was a small detour before. I worked 3 months somewhere else that I won't mention because it sucked. But then I ended up at Trivago as a test automation engineer, and then the real learning began. Because I was thrown in a release and test automation team, which was newly formed to streamline all the test automation that we had in the company. We were also tasked with development of a new end-to-end test framework, and also maintaining the CI/CD pipelines and all the parts where testing needs to happen, because this was scattered across the whole company and across a lot of teams. But this turned out to be not the best idea. I don't know if your companies have dedicated test automation teams. For us, in the end, it didn't work out because it looked like this. And I call this the triangle of doom. We had the quality assurance team, we had the development team, and they got along great. That was unlike other companies I saw. Those two teams really worked together well. And then the test automation team came in, and we didn't have any connection to either of them. We were just working on the technical aspects. And once we had a solution that we thought is great, we just try to push it on both sides and say, this is how we're doing test automation now. And we got comments like, wait, do they want to turn QA into developers? What is this? Why are they not trusting the devs? Who are they? So we were sitting in this ivory tower, looking down on everyone, and that was not a good idea because we forgot to discuss the why we're doing it before we were actually doing it. So this was changed later. So the test automation team was moved to be now inside the quality assurance team. So we were super close to our customers, the QA engineers. We could learn from them directly. We could benefit from their knowledge. And that is crucial. Suddenly, we had a very good relationship with the development team because we were embedded in the QA team. So that fixed everything. Without this simple move, the project would have failed completely. That was very close, but it happened, and I'm very thankful for this. And this gave me new impulses. Because we were so close to the customers, it gave me a change of perspective. Suddenly, being in QA, I got to know the applications under test really, really well because I was learning from the best. And what QA teams have, which is invaluable, they have connections to everyone working on an application, and they know who is doing what. So if something happens, they can contact the right people. And in terms of communication, I learned a lot as well. I learned how to get a sense of the pain points of the users of the test framework and the pipelines, how we could develop the features and processes together to enable better testing overall without pushing technical changes on everyone without asking the question why. And that shifted our focus from the test automation engineers to enable easier exploration. So to take away the boring work and the boring checks and enable the QA engineers to do what they know best. And because of the development experience I had and the other engineers, test automation engineers had in the team, we could be a link between development and QA and sometimes translate between them because sometimes they speak very different languages. And we could also work with the QA engineers to improve the testability of the software under test, which is very, very crucial, and also introduce some software craftsmanship principles into QA. And then, because I was embedded in QA, my whole mindset shifted from QA as a necessary evil to QA as a super crucial part of the software development lifecycle. Because QA, and I can say we because I'm still part of QA, we developed the product as well. And I know now that quality assurance is really, really hard work. And this is something that many people don't see. But I also improved my dev skills, my development skills, my coding skills within QA because I could work on so many different things on new features for the pipelines and frameworks. It's now multiple frameworks solving very hard testing challenges, dealing with new technologies all the time, like cloud technologies, AI technologies, agents now, everything you can imagine, I'm in touch with now. And also being here at Trivago gave me the opportunity to develop some open source solution, like this Cucumber report plugin that I developed in a company hackathon in 2017. It is still around, it's still being used, and it's still our main means of documenting test runs. So I'm very, very glad this is possible here. And also, tests are code. Tests require maintenance, bug fixes, refactoring, code reviews. Everything that you need for the application under test applies to test code. So working on these tests and the frameworks, that really leveled up my development experience. I could even say working in QA has improved my coding skills. And then it got a little weird. It's job ping pong because I went back to Ubisoft in 2021 because games was always the area which was closest to my heart. And I went away from them just because they didn't have a QA career path. But suddenly they did. They had an automation engineer position open, and I went back. And I only lasted for 5 months because it didn't work. QA was not appreciated there. Nobody wanted to work with me. Nobody had time to discuss what needed to be worked on because everyone was busy making games. So I could not create any value at that point. So I realized I left the greener grass, and that wasn't a good idea. Because I think job stickiness and job retention is really, really important. And those are the factors for me. I want to be able to create value. I want to be valued. I want to have a nice company culture, and very crucial for me, learning opportunities. And this is where this came in. Maintain your connections when you leave. I maintained my connections during all that time, and I went back to Trivago. This time as a backend test automation engineer. Again, embedded in the core QA team, working on backend frameworks and pipelines. And then this is where I also picked up public speaking, like right now. And that gave me another shift of view because I was now in the backend. And because I had now backend experience, that gave me the opportunity to write a book about backend testing as well in 2023, writing API tests with Karate. It's still available if you're interested, but this is not supposed to be a shameless plug. And right now I'm what they call a global test automation engineer. I'm more in a consulting role, and I work on front end, back end, and mobile testing. So the triangle is complete now, and I'm learning more than ever. I want to finish with a few key learnings from that time. Very quickly, listen to your users. Always do. Listen as a test automation engineer, listen to the QA engineers. Always ask, why are we doing this? And always discuss, why are we doing this? Keep learning. This is the motivation I have to come to work every day, because every day there's something new. Communication is key. This is what I never wanted to understand when I started in my IT career. that you have to communicate. I wanted to sit in the basement and work on my tasks and don't speak to anyone. This has changed. I know now what the value of communication is. And question everything. Question the tools you work with, question the software, the processes, and also your own career sometime with the question, do I want to keep doing what I'm doing? And with this, that's it. Thank you for listening.
There is
And
actually one question, Benjamin. I know we're
yes,
a bit ahead, like we're a bit after time, but if we can steal one more minute from everyone's time and to get the response of this,
of course.
nice one. Jessica is asking, how can we tackle in the whole IT branch that quality engineering do have some fixed per program session, and if management, project owners, and project leads are not convinced? Do we have to present that with metrics? And she's asking, she'd like to know how to convince in that direction, if you can address that.
Yeah, it is certainly helpful when you have some metrics. But in QA space, it's really hard to achieve that, to have very good metrics. You can start collecting impacts. That's what we do, impacts of certain outages and how they could have been prevented. We are very open about this. And if we say, okay, if we had some tests in this area, this whole thing could have been prevented, that cost us this much money. But the whole situation is very hard to fix. So for me, I was very lucky to be in a company where QA is really valued. So we have the learning opportunities, we have the opportunities to try out new things. And this is part of the job to do that. So if management does not agree and you don't see that it will ever agree, maybe you should ask this question, do I want to keep doing what I'm doing as well?